All right, hi everyone. Welcome to this special edition of Believe in Bills. Adam Benini, WGRZ TV, Sal Majorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, and the man in the middle, Bills Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly. Jim, always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
My pleasure, bro. Looking forward to it.
Dude, it feels like it's 1993 here interviewing you. Holy smokes. Remember those days?
But it wouldn't be on a cell phone. It might be on one of those big brick phones.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
God.
There are few guys in this Western New York media crew that covered your career. But you got two of them here today, my friend.
Yeah, I love it. As a matter of fact, I know Vic Carucci, as we all well know, went into the Hall of Fame this year. I remember all you guys, and you were two of the guys that, as a player, you respected and you didn't mind saying some things off the record that you knew that would be between us and nobody else. And I think, we all know going in, especially professional athletes, you got to watch what you say around people. And there's certain reporters and people that you respect, and you two are the guys that I definitely respected back in the day. And even though you guys were young back then, so was I. But I just want to do a good shout out to Vic Carucci. Congratulations on Hall of Fame, and maybe one of these days you guys will be there too.
Hey, I appreciate that, Jim. And we had Andre on a few weeks ago. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked him. One of the questions: can you imagine if there was social media back in the day when you guys played? Holy shit! I can't even imagine what that would have been like for you guys.
Next question. I think that pretty much tells it. Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, even when I go, say, to the big tree and I'm having a beer or somebody buys you a shot, which I don't do much of anymore because of all my issues, you got to look around and say, okay, who's videoing me taking this shot? And we'll go viral, all those things. But, that was wow, we were blessed back then. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, and you two guys also, I'm sure you're thinking the same thing. Wow, we're glad that there's no cell phones back then where you could do all the videoing. Because when I go to the airport now, there's people, they're looking this way, but their phone's looking at me like going like this. They're like trying to pretend like they're not videoing me.
It's like there's no escaping it these days. That's for sure.
But you know what? I'm a very blessed man. I still live in Buffalo. I love the people. And, of course, guys, back when I played, there was no Bills Mafia. It was just Bills fans. And They imagine back in the day when we were playing, how many times we would have had people jumping, breaking tables. And I brought it up today on one of my cameos. I do cameos, and one of them was about back in the day the tables. And I said, "Oh, my brothers, without a doubt, you guys know my brother. I got 5 brothers. Every one of them would have been jumping on, breaking on table, and I'm sure." Sooner or later, one would be going to ECMC to get worked on his back, his head, whatever the case may be. But you know what? We live in a society today which, it's tough on everybody. But the bottom line is social media is a part of our life. We've got to accept it and continue to move on.
Hey, we were talking early in the week, Adam. We were talking with Del Reed of Bills Mafia.
Yep.
And I brought it up because we're going to LA this weekend. I'll be going out there, and we're going to see, at least probably tens of thousands of Bills fans at that game. And, I brought it up to him that it has changed so much in the last, he said since COVID for sure, how many Bills fans go on the road. And I pointed it out. Back in your day, Jim, there were Bills fans on the road, but it just wasn't the same. There wasn't the volume that there is today. They're going to go to SoFi Stadium Sunday, and there's going to be probably a neutral site feeling to that game. I don't know if you can remember, but I know the Miami game was always a huge Bills travel game. But the other games, right, there wasn't the volume of Bills fans there is today on the road.
No, and Sal, you're right, exactly right. And as soon as you started bringing that up, I thought of Miami because as Marino knows very well, we changed the name of their field to Rich Stadium South. And how would you love it? Because there's just as many fans for the Bills as there were Dolphin fans. But you bring up going to the West Coast. I talked to some people that were at the Seattle game, and they said it sounded like there's more Bills fans than Seattle Seahawks fans. And then you start thinking, wow, way up in Seattle? But Bills fans, Bills Mafia are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just incredible. All right, quick word from the sponsor here, and then we'll get into this year's addition to the team and reflect on the early 90s teams that you led, Jim. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. The largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, NHL, college hoops, UFC, and the MMA as well. Head to the website, Bet Online. The game starts here. Bills 4.5-point favorites against the Rams on Sunday as they look for their 11th win of the season. And Jim, just let's open this up with your impressions of this team. I mean, a lot of success under Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and with Josh Allen at quarterback. But Sal and I both feel this may be the most complete, diverse, in terms of the depth contributions and all of those things, version of this team under McDermott.
It's amazing. I mean, when I saw at the beginning when all these injuries were happening again, I wasn't very optimistic. I mean, of course, as a player, you're going to go into every game saying we can do. I did it. But as an outsider looking in, you start looking at, guys going down and Diggs getting traded and all these things, Milano going down. You're like, oh, my God. And then all of a sudden our receivers are gone. The old cliche is next man up, and that's exactly what has happened here with the Bills. Everybody has contributed. It takes everybody as far as this team to do it. But we've got our running game going. And, of course, Josh being Josh, which we all love, and we hold our breath every time he takes off running. But, this team is amazing. I would have never predicted. I'm sure there's many out there that would not have predicted that we would be 10-2 at this point. But I'm very proud of what Sean has done. Josh is being the leader that he always has been. And then, of course, I think once our defense gets a hold of everything as far as the whole mission of stopping the run number one, which we've got to work on, but the defensive secondary, we're coming on. We're doing pretty good. I'm proud of the way these guys are playing, and I'm excited to see what happens. But we just need a little help. As you well know, somebody's got to knock off the Chiefs, and we've got to run the table. But you know what? One game at a time, right?
Yeah, one game at a time. Hey, Adam and I have brought this point up in the past here with other guests too. And one thing that really has impressed us, Jim, about the modern day Bills is, back in your day, there wasn't free agency in the salary cap, right? So that team that, Butler and Pulley in first, and then Butler and Marv put together, you guys were together for 5, 6, 7 years, the core of that thing. Today, McDermott and Beane have had to tweak this thing a lot every year.
Yeah.
That to me is what's really impressive about how they've won 5 straight division titles. What do you think about that in particular?
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you look at the offensive coordinators. Was this Josh's third?
Yeah.
I'm not sure who was his first. Was it Brian Dable?
Dable was, yep.
Yeah, and then, of course, Ken Dorsey and now Brady. It's amazing because, as you all know, back in my day, I think we had 2 coordinators when I was playing. And to be able to, even though you don't change up everything, of course, everybody is going to have their own wrinkle. And that's what these guys have done. And McDermott being able to do that, and then hand the reins over to a defense coordinator and have to go from there. Because I know as far as the quarterback called all the plays, I looked at what even opposing teams, what we're going after, and knowing that we should run more out of, as far as running the ball, out of the Josh under center, because when the running back gets the ball, he can cut back and see the field a little bit more from the eye position, step off to one side or the other, and having to run the opposite side of the field. If you can visualize that, him being able to see that cutback. When you're in the eye, it's a lot easier. I mean, that's one of the things that Thurman brought up too, that's a lot easier for a running back to see backside if you're in the I formation. So what they're doing now, I'm very impressed.
How about with Josh in general? I mean, the turnovers are down, and the term that Sal and I have used is that we feel like this is the most refined, mature version of Josh Allen that we have seen.
Oh, without a doubt. And I know that when you are that athletically inclined to be able to do whatever you want to do, when that run's there, you want to be able to take it. I think he understands that even though there's some runs that he takes, he still tries to run people over, and he's so big. But, there's definitely – he's taking more of what they give him. He's not going for the long ball all the time. And I know that's something he probably got tired of hearing me say, but Josh has done an excellent job. I'm proud of what he's been able to do. We just need to keep him healthy. And, I don't try to bring that up very often because you don't want to talk about it. Josh is going to be Josh. That's why he's where he's at now. But we still got to keep him healthy.
Hey, Jim, I mean, I think a lot of people would like to know. We know early on when he was a rookie, in fact, I was there the day that mini camp, the first day you were over there, you know, there was all the pictures being taken. But since then, how much contact do you have with Josh? I mean, I don't think he probably seeks you out for advice or anything, but do you guys interact much these days?
We have, but not as much as I don't want to bother the guy. I mean, I'm sure he's getting it from everywhere. Yeah, I text him and congratulate me, text me back and things like that. But I try not to bother him. I just let him be himself. He's a young kid. I probably bother his dad more than I bother him. No, just kidding. But you know what? The thing is, I understand. I get it. I just don't want to be that guy that's always, reaching out to him and talk to him. And I've always told him, if you ever want to sit down and talk, for anything you need to talk to me about, I'm here for you from start to finish. And he realized that. But again, I don't want to bother the kid, but I do reach out and he does get back to me. And I'll leave it at that.
What are your impressions of this Bills team offensively? Because we talked about how Josh's game has evolved. He's not having to do as much. And part of that is a function that they have balance. I mean, you've mentioned the running game, what they're able to do. I think they're at their best when they have the running game going. But the addition of an Amari Cooper when he's been in there has seemed to really open things up in terms of adding some explosiveness to that passing game.
Oh, yeah. And when we get to the point where we use Cooper more, it kind of surprised me that we don't use it as much as we have. But Shakir's coming on, and hope we're going to have a Coleman coming back. But, it definitely helps because the defense then has to, get ready. They have to game plan more when you have another receiver like the Cooper out there. And the thing is, when you have running backs and you can put one in and the other Cook comes out, and then just the way the whole running game is gone, it definitely takes a lot of pressure off of Josh that he does not have to make that big play every time. Every series, you don't have to come out there and make sure that big play happens. You continue to work on running on first down, but about 50-50, I would say I love to do that because Josh has the ability to be able to, get out there and do some run-pass options. But more importantly, we have gotten that running game going. Our offensive line has done a very good job. And I just hope we continue to work on penalties, making sure that, like, I remember when I would get inside the 5-yard line and we would huddle up and Marv was calling the short yards and goal line. The first thing I would say to the guys is, don't get a penalty. We don't need a penalty now. And usually, the further we got inside, I would keep the snap count on the same snap count because I don't want. Why are you trying to, draw the defensive line offside? You're not. You're going to gain what, a yard? More than that, you don't want somebody jumping offside and taking us back 5 more yards. So I think what we are doing now with the running game and getting that going, and without a doubt, as you guys well know, it helps out big time.
Hey, Jim, obviously their offense has been terrific, really, for the last 5 years. They've been a great offensive team. But would you love to see them try the no huddle once in a while? Because, you guys just perfected that back in the day. Wouldn't you think that would be fun to watch Josh run a no huddle offense like you guys have?
Totally. I love it. Of course, when Ken was here, Dorsey, I used to tell him that, try to run the no huddle every once in a while. It would surprise a lot of teams, and they would not be able to substitute as quick as they usually do. And I think Josh would be great at it. But when you're going in what we're doing now, we're doing a pretty good job at scoring a lot of points. Yeah, you don't want to change it up, but I love that. Maybe near the end of the season, they'll start maybe doing a little bit against teams that they should be, get that big lead. Maybe I shouldn't say big lead because you don't want the opposing team and the fans to think you're rubbing it in. But the thing is, we have the tools to be able to do it, especially at the quarterback position. So we'll see what happens, but I agree 100%. I would love to see it.
Don't you think, though, that one of the issues is today's coaches are just they just micromanage everything, and they just wouldn't trust Josh. Like, Marv trusted you to call the plays. I think the biggest obstacle would be they don't want to have Josh calling the plays. That's probably the issue, right?
I don't know about that because Josh is a very intelligent person. He knows defenses. If it was me, I would, at least got to try it. And even though you do that, the last 2 minutes of a game or a half when you need to go into no huddle mode, Josh has done a pretty good job. But that's up to the coaches. I mean, they know more than we do as outsiders. We're not sitting in that, that meeting room, but I would probably say that they definitely have the confidence to let him do that. But where they're at right now, maybe they're feeling good. Of course they should because they're winning and doing pretty good offensively.
Well, Jim, when they've needed him to kind of go off script and make the big play, he certainly has. I mean, I didn't think he could possibly outdo the 4th and 2 run against Kansas City. And then he and Cooper pull off that lateral the other night. And during the course of that game, too, I mean, he breaks another one of your records, the franchise total touchdowns. You guys were tied with 244. He winds up effectively getting 2 on that particular play. He's at 248 now. But when you see Josh do what he does in those instances, yeah, they aren't asking him to do as much, that there's a more complete team around him, but when he needs to, I mean, he just leaves you shaking your head. When you see his athleticism, his decision-making, his ability to deliver in those clutch situations, how does that strike you?
Myself when you talk about the running form.
Can you imagine yourself trying that play, Jim?
But hey, my run against the Dolphins at 4 yards and Josh, what was that, like 17, 20? It took us about the same amount of time to get to the goal line. But I just love watching the guy. I mean, people come up to me and say, "Are you mad that he broke your record?" I go, "Why?" I mean, I love it because if he's breaking my records, we're winning football games, and that's what you gotta love. And I have my family, my 2 daughters, my wife goes crazy. They're such Bills fanatics, or I should say Bills Mafia ladies. But, I love watching them. Sometimes I prefer to stay home and watch it from my recliner because I can rewind the tape, yell at the officials for how in the H did they call that? That's horrible. But I've been saying that so many times this year. And we run those big plays off. I don't want to see that little yellow thing up on the TV saying flag. And I'm sure you guys are saying the same thing. So I can say that about the officials. I think they're horrible.
Hey, I think it needs pointing out, Jim, that he still trails you by 50 touchdown passes, though. So you still got that one for a little while.
For a little while. Very well put. Yeah. What's this, his 8th year, 7th year?
This is his 7th year. Yeah.
7th year. Yeah, he's doing a lot of that, and I only played for 11. So, well, when they first started out, all the throwing that the league was doing, I knew it was just a matter of time before they broke my record. And I knew that if he did, that means he's going to be in Buffalo for many, many years, which is what you want out of a franchise quarterback. You want to be able to have him. And I think his contract coming up pretty soon.
No, he signed through, I want to say it's 27, but what's going to happen, Jim, is they're going to extend him, though, because, you know how it is. These quarterbacks are getting this ridiculous money now, and they want to keep him on track with these other guys, and the Bills are going to end up doing that. They're going to end up extending him and making it work better for the salary cap.
Josh Allen makes more in 1 year than I made my whole career in Buffalo.
That's crazy.
Ouch!
I remember when
I try to tell my daughters and my wife the same thing. Hey, guys, I didn't make Josh Allen money. I mean, you got to quit ordering all this stuff at Christmas. I mean, you can order a few things, but oh my gosh!
I remember, Jim, when you signed your 7-year, $20 million contract, and it was the richest contract at the time. It didn't last long. It got surpassed pretty quick. But that was like an unbelievable figure. This friggin' guy's making $40 million a year. I mean, you signed for $20 million for 7 years.
I remember when I first signed, the guys that were before me, like the Ron Jaworski and guys that played, before me, how they were saying, why are they paying that much money? Oh my gosh, you guys are so lucky. And, back then, of course we were. I mean, I grew up in a family of 6 boys, and we had nothing. I mean, our winter gloves wore white socks. We couldn't afford them. And my shoes had holes in the bottom, and I had to cut out cardboard to put them in for insoles to walk to school. So, and then all of a sudden this comes, but you know what, guys? I dreamt about playing football. I worked my tail off throughout my whole life, trying to get to that point. And the reason for it was, number one, is to be able to take care of my mother and my father, especially my mother, who grew up and who brought up 6 boys. And then, of course, making my 5 brothers proud of their brothers. So those goals that I had were all attained. I worked my tail off. I think, to the good Lord, I've earned that right to be there. But I never, ever thought about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Not once in my life I ever thought about that until I was up for it in 2002. So for me, I've been very blessed, and the Bills are now blessed to have a guy like Josh Allen as their quarterback, not only on the field, what he does on the field, but what he does off the field for Children's Hospital. And he's just an amazing man. And this is something that I'm sure the Bills have prayed for many years, including myself. And it's good to see somebody with a heart that he has, and the competitiveness that's in his heart too, to go out there and hopefully one day bring something home to all these Bills fans.
Well, Jim, I mean, what you did in your career laid the foundation for so much of the success that these players today are enjoying, you and others from that era. What you did, what you've overcome off of the field, the way you've inspired others with the adversity that you faced, and how you and Jill and your family have handled the whole thing, it just speaks volumes. And I think we all have a sense that something potentially special is happening. There's something different about this team this year, which was supposed to be a transition year, moving on from Stephon Diggs and adjusting, getting the salary cap right and all those things. I guess as we wrap this up here, with a lot of the intangibles, and you guys had so many of them back in the early 90s, Sal and I see intangibles with this team. We think they're going to be if they stay healthy, a very difficult out in the playoffs. Do you see it that way?
100%. Of course, just like anybody, you would love to see that home field advance throughout the playoffs and get the Bills Mafia going crazy and wild. And yeah, I think we got it. As a matter of fact, I was watching ESPN this morning, and they were going back before the season started. And I think there was only one person to pick the Bills, especially into a couple of games into the season, that were going to win the AFC East. Everybody was picking the New York Jets are a lot better. Tua's got the wide receivers now, and the Bills, they traded, Diggs, and they got this guy. This guy hasn't come back, and nobody was picking the Bills. And to be honest with you, it's not that I wasn't. It's just I didn't feel very comfortable with all the issues that we were having as far as injuries. I'm like, not again this year, but here we are, 10-2, heading to the West Coast, and hopefully we'll keep on that roll. We'll take one game at a time. We already got the AFC East, and I'm looking to see what these Bills have in store for the next month or two.
Hey, Jim, let me just say, I mean, if this team goes on to win the Super Bowl, I mean, obviously it's going to be the greatest thing in the history of Buffalo sports, maybe Buffalo in general. And it's going to be because Allen has been a tremendous, tremendous player. He'll be the guy that leads them to that if it should happen. But people who are watching this, and it's a lot of young people who watch YouTube and listen to podcasts, have to understand the impact that you had with the Bills. I know it. I was there. I was covering it back in the late 80s when it was happening. But you have to understand, and the people who are watching have to understand, that you were the savior of this franchise, dude. When you came here, this was a shit show. And Ralph Wilson was thinking of moving this team. And you showed up, and I know you're going to kind of poo-poo that probably because you had a lot of help. But people have to understand what they have today was kind of set in place by how you turned this whole thing around. So you need to be reminded through all this Josh Allen greatness where this really started.
Well, I get what you're saying. I do appreciate it. And now you know why at the beginning I did not want to play for Buffalo. I saw the way everything was going. I saw the fans weren't that great. I think when I went to the USFL, I think they had back-to-back 2-14 seasons. And then, to be honest with you, I'll just tell it like it is. We tried to work out a trade for the Steelers or the Raiders before I wind up coming to Buffalo. But Ralph Wilson said that, you don't play for Buffalo, you're not going to play for anybody. And that pretty much set the tone. And then when I got here, it was amazing. And that's why I still live here 35, 40 years later. I am still a Buffalo Bill fan. I'm a person that loves this city. And you know what? We did a great job back then. We had fun. 4 times in a row going to the Super Bowl, even though we didn't win. That will probably never happen again. And I tell you what, I'm just proud of where these guys are at now. And hopefully Josh will be, and I can't see anybody else being able to lead this team to the promised land to get us there and hopefully bring that trophy back to Buffalo. But, it takes everybody. It takes everybody pulling together. And I think we got the nucleus to be able to do that. The coaching staff is doing a great job. Brandon Bean, as we all well know, they just added Micah Hyde, I think more so for the leadership role. And hopefully we don't have more injuries happen. I think they're getting prepared just in case because they don't want to slip now. They want to keep steaming ahead. So I'm happy. I'm proud of where we're at. We'll see what happens down the road.
All right, Jim. All right. Thank you so much for your time. As always, really appreciate having you on.
I appreciate having me on your podcast, and just to let everybody know out there, tune in to Immeasurably More. My daughter Erin does a podcast, which is pretty cool every Wednesday, and just love to see some guys cheer her on because she's doing a heck of a job.
All right,
great,
love it. This is it.
Bye,
this
guys.
is the
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, same to you. Happy holidays, Jim. For Sal Mayorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly. I'm Adam Benini. Thank you for being with us here on Believe in Bills.